And hello out there, Blade family. I'm Leo Holland, the current proud principal of the home of scholars and champions at East Bakersfield High School. Welcome to the Blade Family Reunion podcast. This week, November 29th, I've got an excellent interview coming up with Coach Milt Henderson. Coach Henderson has been a member of the Blade family for some time. Was a long-time coach of our boys basketball team, varsity coach and assistant coach before that. And Coach Henderson has been a community counselor at East Bakersfield High School for several years now as well, reaching out to families and kids who need help and assistance, doing mediations, as I'm sure we'll talk about in the interview. Hope you enjoy it. Take care. And it's Sunday, November 29th. I've got on the phone with me an East Bakersfield High School legend, a player and coaching legend, Mr. Milt Henderson. Good morning, Milt. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing absolutely wonderful today.
It's good to hear from you. This is an interview I couldn't wait to do because you were so instrumental in my career, and hopefully we'll touch on that a little bit as we talk today. But first things first, we're still in the pandemic. How are you and your family holding up?
Yeah, we're all doing well physically. It's just the mental toll that it takes on you sometimes. You just wonder, when is it going to end? When is it going to end? Is everyone going to do right so we can get past this?
Yeah.
So it's just the more of the mental part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But everybody's doing well. My little ones, grands that are in elementary school, they miss their friends and things like that.
So let's catch everybody up to speed, if you don't mind, Mr. Henderson. So remind everybody how many children you have, how many grandchildren you have. Tell us all about your amazing wife and those sorts of things, so we can all be up to speed on what's going on in your life.
I have four wonderful sons. Very proud of all four of them. They're all doing really well. I have 15 grands. So seems like there's a birthday every month. I'm like digging in the pocket all the time. And then Christmas rolls around, like, ooh, I have to save up for that before it gets there.
Yeah.
And then I actually have one great grand. So
I did not know that. Congratulations.
Yes. He's 6 now. Almost six.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've already said everyone's doing well, which is
doing well.
Great to hear.
Yeah. I had a birthday a little over a week ago, and all the grands that are here in town that are close all came, and I didn't realize how many boys we have in the family. It was just like a sea of boys, and I had two granddaughters. One's 7 and one's 4. And the one that's 4, she has 6 brothers. So she just thinks she's just Miss Queen of the Nile. Yeah. She's kind of bossy sometimes too. We have to tone her down sometimes.
Well, when you got all those brothers, you can be. Nobody's gonna mess with her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I will feel for her when she gets to junior high and high school, and she call herself gonna look at a boy.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Brother's gonna be all over
her. That's good though.
Yeah, it is.
I will say, I have a little sister much younger than me. She's 11 years younger than me, and it was rough on her having a few big brothers, and then her. There's no peace for her. But she was spoiled. She was spoiled something fierce, but.
Oh my goodness, is this girl spoiled?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, unbelievable. Anything she see on TV, like, my daddy gonna get me that. My daddy gonna get me that. Grandpa, can you give me? I said, no, your daddy can get you that. He wants everything. The girl wants everything, and she ends up getting it.
That's awesome.
I keep trying to tell my son, you're spoiling her too much. I mean, she's just gonna be rotten. But that's his little girl. I almost can't blame you.
Yeah, I understand that. I do.
Yeah.
I do. So, so you said 15 grandchildren,
Yeah.
13 boys, and
No, I have four boys. Oh, the
out of your grandkids.
here grandkids locally here. There's two granddaughters, but there's two granddaughters that live in Maryland.
Okay.
Now, one son that lives in Maryland.
Okay.
So yeah, we were actually going to try to go there during the holidays because we haven't like seen them in a while. But with that virus kicking up, we decided it'd be best to wait till like the springtime or so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I gotta tell you, I'm glad you mean a lot to me. So I'm glad you're rethinking those plans. I want you guys to stay safe. A lot of people are having to reevaluate holiday plans and travel plans and stuff. So,
yeah.
So
Sure.
now, what are your sons all up to now? You said one's in Maryland. Where are your boys at?
Hey, the two oldest are twins,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the twins live in Maryland. He works for a roofing and refrigeration company. He's like their salesman. He's done really well. He's been like their top salesman nationwide for the last 4 or 5 years. So he does really good at that. And then the other son, Darrell, he's here in town. He works at South High School. He's works over there in special ed.
Mm-hmm.
Then Jr. is still over in Japan, but he has a new role now. He was a player over there, and now he's coaching over there. He's coaching the women's team, and they want him to like do that for a couple of years, get some experience, and eventually move into the coaching the men's team over there in Japan, the national team.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So he loves doing that. It's a different experience for him. He calls for tips and Dad, how you do this?
Yeah, you got plenty of years of experience to call on for that.
What would you do if this happened? If that happened? So,
yeah.
Yeah, being as a player and a coach. And then my youngest one, Lindell, he's here in town. He's at AT&T. So
okay,
they're all doing pretty good.
That's good to hear. So, Coach Henderson, I ask these 5 questions every time I do one of these interviews. But before I get into the 5 questions, I want to talk about my history with you, which really just goes back to when I got hired at East to be the police officer.
Yeah.
And at the time, as you still are, you were the community counselor there.
Yes.
And so some of my first interactions with you actually were there was a few different ways we interacted. But the community counselors, for those of you who don't know, community counselors and police officers in our district do work pretty closely together. And I feel like, in retrospect, the way it should be is for kids who are having conflicts and those sorts of things, we do everything we can to intervene with the community counselors before a police officer has to get involved. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Henderson?
That is 100% correct.
So how this used to go down, for those who are unaware, I did my job. I arrested people when they needed to go across the street to juvenile hall. I took care of that. But Mr. Henderson was one of our go-to people and the primary go-to person while I was there for doing conflict mediations. So what I remember most about Mr. Henderson, other than basketball coaching, which I'll get into that in just a moment because there was a separate thing for that. But I remember most, and I appreciated you most for, is the amount of conflicts that you used to squash. It seemed like some days you'd do 3 or 4 different conflict mediations with kids, successful conflict mediations. I'll add that part because I think a lot of times people think the conflict mediation process, dressing or whatever. In my experience with you, coach, is that you were able to get kids calmed down and solve these problems, and I'm not really sure how you were able to do it. So I think a lot of it was just the respect the kids had for you. I don't know how you feel, or if you have any recollections of all the conflict mediations we used to ask you to do back in the day, but that's how I felt. I felt like the kids just had a respect for you, so when you called them in, they were very willing to let you sort their issues out with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that had a lot to do with it, and I guess it's my temperament to, I can, and I'm willing to listen to both sides and try and be fair to both sides in the mediation, and then you know you want the kids to know that you're there trying to resolve the problem, and it needs to be a process between everybody that's in there. It's got to be some give and take from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And once you can get them to that point where they're willing to like do some give and take, then you can most of the time have a successful mediation.
It seemed like you had a ton of successful mediations. I mean, it seemed like.
Yeah, yeah, and I do remember, not all mediations are successful. And there was some that, tell them like, if we can't resolve it here, then you gotta, I tried to do the mediations across the hall from the dean's office.
Right. Yeah.
So there would be a separate thing. Tell the kids, if we can't get it resolved here, we got to go across the hall. There won't be any more listening to you or whoever. I'm just going to give the person that's going to handle it on the other side my opinion, and they're going to do whatever it is they need to do. And you had a reputation when I say, well, you're going to go and see Mr. Holland, the police officer. Yeah, like, oh no, what is it can we do to go ahead and get this resolved? The rest of them boys, like, hey, we don't want to go there and deal with him again.
Yeah.
So, and that was, you need like a heavy there also too. Whenever you can't get things resolved, there has to be a heavy in there that them kids know that we will be going to the heavy if we can't get it resolved over here.
Right. I look back at that. It's funny. I shouldn't say funny. It's interesting that I had to wear that hat, because the hat I wear now is so much different than the hat I was wearing back then. But I that was the role I had to take on in our family to make sure things functioned. We became a functional family. So.
Yeah, you were the dad.
Yeah, I had to wear that hat. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that, the coaching side. When I didn't have a connection other than my wife. I didn't really have a connection to East High when I arrived there to be the cop. That football season when I first moved back to Bakersfield, East won a Valley Championship in football. So I got to experience that, even though I wasn't the school cop yet. I was showing up to work the games with Augie, so I got to experience that. But I had never really experienced an East High home basketball game until that first experience I had when I just got hired to be the cop there. And basketball season, the league season was kicking off. And the atmosphere in that gym back then in the early 2000s was, I couldn't believe it. I'm just, we got back to that a little bit last year with the success of the girls basketball team. We got to see the home side full on a few occasions. But, regular season game, home game against, BHS or whoever we happen to be playing on any given night, and the stands were full. And the thing I'll never forget is just going to ask you if you remember this. We had some refs that used to like to get on you about things that went on in the audience, things that our football players would show up and do.
Oh yeah.
And we had that group of football players that year that all they did was football because they had won a Valley Championship, so they were done with athletics at that point. And they would show up at the basketball games with their chest painted and wait for me to walk out and pull their shirts off. And you'd send somebody to get me because the refs would start telling you if they can't keep their shirts on, you were going to get a T and we need to throw them out and all that stuff. And so do you remember those crazy kids that were doing that back then?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those football guys. That was just their way of support.
Yeah,
You know?
it was support.
Yeah, it was just support, But referees, you have some referees that just want to control everything,
Right.
Because when they would initially come and tell me that, I need to calm them kids down. I said, well, I'm here to coach my team. I said, you're here to ref the game. Why don't we just try doing that? And, everything take care of itself. And they didn't like that very much. So they gave me one in the morning, you need to get them calmed down or you're going to get a T.
Yeah, and then somebody would come get me, and I'd go in there and pretend like I was mad at those kids, even though I thought it was hilarious.
I'd go get Officer Howland.
Yep. I'd come in there looking mad, telling them, "Oh, y'all get Mr. Henderson's gonna get a T because of you guys. You need to calm down." They'd calm down.
They calm down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They were just kids.
Yeah, having fun. Kids having fun. And from what I recall, they never wrote anything. Profane. It might be, Highland sucks or something like that on their chest, but it wasn't, the F word or any profanity or anything like that. Nothing where I felt like the refs needed to be on those kids the way they would be on them, but they'd sit right down in the front row and just have a blast. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
So
those are good days.
So what was and I don't think this would necessarily be covered in the questions I have here. What are some of your fondest memories as a coach? I think the questions will probably get into some of your memories as a player, but as a coach, what were some of your fond memories over the years?
I remember coaching when we make the playoffs mainly. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like every year we were running into the Henderson High School. And that's when they had just the superior athletes,
Uh-huh.
And we would play them guys, and it seemed like we just could never get past those guys. Then I remember when we won the Valley Championship, we played Washington Union in the Valley Championship game. I remember we got there early for the game, found someone to let us in the gym, and we were just sitting in there, just letting the kids stretch their legs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of their players started coming in the gym. They got there a little early, and they went and changed. They went and changed clothes and came back out. And they put on a dunk show like you wouldn't believe. They were catching off the backboard,
oh, no.
doing 360s and all kind of stuff like that. And they started talking smack to our kids by, I'm gonna dunk on your head and all this kind of stuff that. And then, I tell my kids, just it's okay, don't worry about that. I said, because they're not gonna get none of those in the game.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and when the kids walk by, and they got no dunks during the game. You beat them by, I think it's 3 or 4 points.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And then playing the Drillers. I don't know if they still play BHS or not. And I think they took them off the schedule a couple of years back.
Yeah. We don't play BHS in league anymore, at least.
In league.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we had that was a rivalry. That was years and years. That's from playing as a player and then coaching. I still had to drive to want to beat those guys. I always wanted to beat them guys every since I was like, in the eighth grade. I went and watched some of their games when they played East High,
Mm-hmm.
and just always wanted to beat those guys.
Yeah, I still do, but we don't see them too often. If we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
BHS, we had a good tournament somewhere. Usually is what
Yeah.
that means. Yeah. All right. So, Mr. Henderson, I've got the 5 questions I'm gonna go through with you. Are you all set?
I'm set. I'm ready.
All right. So, what teacher or staff member made the biggest difference in your EB high school education? And this is not a class. This is a person.
Person. I would say Mr. Roger Chichester. He was a biology teacher there at East High School that I had. We're talking at East High, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was, and I think he was like my favorite teacher because he not only taught you well and taught it to where you wanted to learn more and you can understand what he was saying, but you can tell he genuinely cared for all the students in the class. He didn't play favorites or anything like that. He always at the door to greet you, ask you how you were doing, things like that. And some kids, you can kind of tell they wasn't going good or whatever, and he gave them some extra attention.
Good teachers
And
always seem to do that, don't they?
yeah, he's just an excellent teacher. All the kids liked him and respected him. Yeah, I mean it wasn't always on the roads. There was times where sometimes he had to get on you if you wasn't like getting your work done or getting homework turned in or whatever. But it wasn't nothing like he put you down or anything like that.
Right. Right.
He's a
Yeah.
good teacher.
Yeah. Mr. Chichester's come up a few times in these interviews, so
Oh,
I'm not entirely surprised to hear you say Mr. Chichester. In fact, if I were to ever interview my brother-in-law, he would say Mr. Chichester too.
oh yeah.
I've
Yeah,
I've
he
heard
made
his
a
name.
big impact on a lot of students.
Yeah. Yep. I've heard that. Okay, so what was your favorite class?
Okay, my favorite class, the one that I made a beeline to when that bell rung, believe it or not, was home ec.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Please
yeah,
elaborate,
yeah,
Mr. Henderson. Let's hear about that. Home
yeah.
ec
We
has
had
never come up before as a favorite class, so this is the first time. So
oh,
please
okay.
elaborate on home ec.
Show you how long ago I've been around. I've been around a few years, but in the home, well, I never had any intentions of like getting married or anything. So I
Okay.
figured I need to learn how to cook, need to learn how to clean, wash, and all that kind of stuff like that. And we had a home ec class, so I signed up for had my counselor put me in that class. And the best thing about it was there's only like 3 guys in the whole class.
Yeah.
And I think one of the guys was kind of a nerd guy. I can't remember the other guy. Then I had like all the attention. All the girls are coming over. Mel, can I help you? Can I help you? Hey, yeah, sure. So, you got to eat whatever you cooked it into. We were baking cakes and, I got all the extras and stuff like that. That was one of the best classes I ever had.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that was like my freshman or sophomore year. Then once I got to be a junior, senior, you had to be serious. Couldn't take the home ec classes anymore.
What room was home ec in?
It was up there where I think it was 2 doors down from where James Dominguez class is. It was upstairs in the 450.
Okay.
I feel like 454, 450, somewhere in there.
Okay, so where we currently have our social studies department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right up there.
Interesting. Okay. And that makes sense because that would be pretty much above the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that does make sense. Interesting. I would not have guessed that would be your favorite class. So that's That's cool. I hope that kind of resonates with some of our students who might be listening to this, because that's pretty cool. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Now let's see here. What is your favorite high school memory?
Favorite high school, what was that last?
Memory. Your favorite high school memory.
Oh, memory. Um, Probably, I would say, man, there's a lot of things happened in high school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I would say probably the favorite memory is like, since I'm an athlete, is winning the Valley Championship. It was a little bit different, like winning the Valley Championship back then.
Hmm.
We didn't have all these different
Divisions.
divisions,
Right.
and so like if you won the Valley, you won the Valley. You're the best in the whole. It didn't matter what level you're at.
And so what? Where did y'all elaborate on that a little bit? Where did y'all play? Who did you do? You recall who you were up against? And
Yeah, yeah. The championship game was in Fresno at the Selland Arena,
uh huh.
and we played San Joaquin Memorial. I don't know if you ever heard of the Pondexter brothers. They had these Pondexter brothers that played back then, and one of the oldest one, Roscoe, he went to Long Beach State and played for the Boston Celtics for like 4 or 5 years. He was like 6'7", 6'8", somewhere in there. Big, huge, strong guy. Uh, then the brother after him, he was 2 years behind him. His name was Cliff. He was 6'11",
Oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, and he played in the NBA for like 6 or 7 years, I think. And then they had one younger brother. He wasn't as good as those two, but he was like, still something to have to deal with. And what I remember is like game starting, and we thought what we had was like, you know a couple of Superman type guys, but we found out they had a couple of them guys too. So, but it just came down to, at the end, we were probably a little bit more mentally tougher than they were.
Hmm.
We had played a lot of close games and knew how to win close games, and that was the close games. And we beat them guys, I think it was by 1 point.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then the one, Roscoe, the oldest brother, he has a son that went to San Joaquin Memorial. I don't know if you know the twins that went there, uh, Lopez twins. They're still in the NBA, and that when Ross was kid,
Oh
he's still
really?
in the NBA also. They were all at San Joaquin Memorial together. Those guys were.
Wow.
Yeah. So we played them in a tournament. So we played a team that had three future NBA players
Wow.
on that one team. But
Wow.
yeah,
My goodness.
yeah.
Now, so so let me ask you this, Milt. That was your senior year, is that right?
When we won the Valley,
Yes.
sophomore.
That was your sophomore year. Okay.
Hmm. My senior year, I think we took third place. I know we didn't play in the championship game. We took third place.
Was
That was the year uh, when uh, when I came back from my junior year. My junior year, we were really good. We lost in the championship game my junior year. We were really good. I think they said the only year that they had a starting five that were selected as all area, all league. It was back all league back then. We had like five really, really good players.
okay. That was your junior year.
Yeah, it was my junior year. And then my senior year came back. I'd always hung out with like guys that were like a year older or 2 years older.
Uh-huh.
So when school started back my senior year, and I saw some A lot of these guys, I didn't even know who they were. They came up from the JV team. Only I think I was the only returning player from the year before.
Oh wow.
So I had like all these new guys. Like but we ended up doing pretty good. I think we took like third place in the Valley that year.
Well, it seems like all the teams in that era, all the basketball teams at East did pretty good. You know,
Yeah,
that's that part of that legacy thing I love to talk about.
yeah.
Um,
And
and your coach back then was
when we
Ralph
saw,
Cravey, right?
yes, yes. He was sometimes he could be a task master. Sometimes he when he say he wanted something done, he meant he wanted it done, and he
Right.
wanted it done his way.
Right. Right.
Yeah. What he was notorious for is in practice, if somebody would like mess up or screw up, he would yell at him some, and then if it happened again, he always had a basketball in his hand. And if he like messed up, he put the basketball down and he just kicked that thing. And that was in the old gym.
Uh huh.
So when it hit the wall, you can hear it you can hear the sound of it all through the gym and outside and everywhere.
Oh, I bet it
And
echoed everywhere, all over campus.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So he got his point across. I think my junior year is when they call us the Iron Man 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. We like pressed the whole game and hardly ever subbed. So
Wow.
what he done was in practice, he like ran us hard so we would be in top condition, and
Wow.
we could go a whole game with five guys and pressing the whole game.
That's hard work.
Yeah,
That's hard work.
yeah,
And I don't think if you've never really been involved in basketball or been uh, run a full court press before, I don't think you understand how hard it is to do that for 40 minutes. That's a hard deal to do. That is hard.
yes,
Whew.
yeah. And to be effective doing it, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because, guys, you go hard up and down 3 or 4 times. A lot of times you're looking to come out and take a quick break or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not only that,
So,
if you're able to stay in the entire game without fouling out when you're running a full court press, that's a challenge too. I mean,
yeah,
that's hard to do.
yeah, yeah. And he was real tough on having discipline, as far as like not reaching and picking up a lot of cheap fouls and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, he was real tough on that.
Wow. Okay. So, coaching wise, how far? What was the separation between you and Cravey and your style as a coach?
Um,
'Cause you did not strike me as, and I know you every once in a while would throw a press on people. That I saw with my own eyes. We did press people, but
yeah.
as far as in practice, kicking balls into walls and stuff like that, you didn't strike me as a person who would do that.
No, but I was one that I didn't believe in like coaches and embarrassing kids and stuff, like during games yelling and screaming at them and
Right.
stuff like that. No, I've always thought, and kind of the example that I saw from Cravey was, if you got to yell and scream at your players during the game, that means you don't have them prepared to play the game.
Right.
So that's kind of on you.
Right.
And in practice, I mean, like I'll get on them, in practice, so that they would be prepared for the game.
Right.
But yeah,
Okay. There's I don't think I ever saw you really yell. I saw you frustrated a few times coaching because you're coaching. There's moments. Everybody has their moments when you're coaching something. Um,
Yeah.
you had a look, Milt. I knew when a kid messed up because you had this look that you would give a kid when you pulled him out of the game. That was like the practice tomorrow is going to be rough. That's the best way I can describe it. It was this,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll fix this tomorrow look that you would have when you pulled a kid because they were messing up. It was something else. So,
Hmm. You know, I hear that from my players. I hear it from my family. I hear it from my wife. She's like, "You have that look. You look at them kids like that." I'm like, "Well, what? What kind of look is it? Am I looking at them like?
you
I don't get it."
you wouldn't. I don't think you. I don't think you did it on purpose, Milt. I really
I
don't.
don't
I feel like it was a natural. It was a. How do I put this? It was like a. While you were pulling the kid, you were processing how you were going to fix it. I guess is the best way to put it. You were looking at this kid, thinking to yourself, "How am I going to fix this issue? What are we going to do to make this right?"
know. Hmm.
And I would see it. I mean, it would you'd call a timeout. A kid would come across, walking toward the bench, and you'd have this look, and you'd be processing the whole way over. And I
Yeah.
just, this kid, tomorrow's gonna be rough on this guy. So, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got a point there. I did do that. And
uh,
then I know sometimes if a kid like really screwed up, I mean, after I told him or something like that, and he's still not getting it, I call a timeout. I'm looking directly at that kid when they're coming over to the bench. And some of the kids come over and they start like talking. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to you guys right now. Go over there to the bench. Said this timeout is for him.
oh yeah,
And like that, yeah.
oh yeah,
So I got the point over here.
yeah, yeah. You were. I will say, there was a there was some what I would call some honesty in the way that you coached about expectations and those things. At least I felt that way, which I think is good. I think it's good for coaches to be transparent about what they expect out of a kid,
Mm-hmm.
And I think while we all say that and expect that coaches are, there's a lot of coaches out there that are not. There are a lot of coaches out there that are not. So I always appreciated that about the way you went about coaching those young men. Those boys knew what you expected from them. So, all right.
Yeah.
So these last two questions, I say it's two, it's really three. These last two questions are really about reflecting and giving something to the kids that are maybe listening as part of their class. I know I have a few teachers that play these interviews for their classes right now. So the first one is, what is one piece of advice you would go back and give yourself right before you started your freshman year? And what would that advice be for kids coming in now? So first of all, what would you tell yourself and what would you tell incoming kids now?
I would probably like tell myself and any kid coming in high school, there's like natural fears. I think sometimes about going from junior high to high school. Um, but I would say like set a good expectation for yourself. Uh, Probably even set the goal a little higher because you'd be surprised that if you're like really focused and on doing on getting things done, you could probably do better than what you actually done, especially like you're first coming into high school. Um, don't be afraid to try new things because you never know if you're going to be good at something or not unless you try. I think that's probably one of the main things. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to like fail because we all fail at something
Yeah,
along the way.
I appreciate that advice. I think it's important that we reinforce and reiterate to kids it's okay to fail. Just
It's okay.
yeah, pick yourself up, get better. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And the last question, Mr. Henderson, what does it mean to you to be a Blade?
I think to me, what it means to be a Blade is is that you're part of a family. I think East High, I can't speak for other schools because I haven't been at other schools. I know at East High, there's a feeling and a genuine feeling of a family there. People care about each other. Uh, People want to see you succeed and do well. Um, I think that it's something that's on the inside of you. You either have it or you don't. You either have that feeling of family or you don't. I can remember when the school got the facelift.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long it's been now. When they got the grant or whatever, and they repainted, redone like almost the whole school all over again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they're in the 200, 250 building side
Uh-huh.
that's facing out toward the lower football field,
Uh-huh.
and they were painting and doing stuff like that. It was like, I think it was like school was out, and I was there for, I don't know, I was walking through that little alleyway right there, and I just sat down on the curb, and it just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. You see the school kind of being changed over, and then like a lot of memories and things kind of go through your mind that you think about,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because that school has, I touched myself or my family or something in some kind of way for like 7 decades.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of feelings there.
Yeah. Absolutely. We it's interesting. The buildings there, I think we have the most beautiful school in Bakersfield. I don't even think it's you know, I don't think it's even a close race, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we have a lot of little spots that hold very special meaning for one reason or another for, all the
Mm-hmm.
faculty that's there. So I'm definitely not surprised to hear you say that. It's 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 just a great place. That
Yeah.
family thing, I kind of adopted into the Blade family, and it just it just resonates with you. You get that feeling that everybody wants to see you do better and be the best you can be, and
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a
For
beautiful
sure.
thing. Yeah. So, is there
For
any
sure.
other memories or anything else you'd like to share with everybody before I hit the stop button on this interview?
Um. There's there's like a ton of memories, but over the years, from initially first going there as a little goofy freshman, and now, kind of like winding up the career. It's it's I could probably say like East Side is probably like the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know how different I'd be or what I'd be or whatever if I went somewhere else and would have had different influences. But East Side has been like really good for me,
Mm-hmm.
and probably the one of the best things that ever happened to me through East High School is I met my wife there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been 45 good years.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now, I know that I was hoping that you'd get to that because for our listeners, Mr. Henderson is the first interviewee that I've had who's actually also inducted into the East High Hall of Fame. And I found out that piece of information that you just shared with this audience at your Hall of Fame speech. So I was hoping that you would mention that.
Yeah.
So for you, East High clearly is a major part of your family,
Yeah.
and you're a major part of the Blade family. It's hard to when you start talking to people in this setting for this podcast. When I started, it's hard to even gauge how many people you've different interviewees have impacted in various ways. So I know there are students who came through East that you never coached, never mediated, never, you know, delivered food to their house or did anything directly with them, but they sat in the stands during the basketball games and you had an impact on them. And you know, they avoided trouble because you were there at lunch to make sure that they were safe while they were traversing through the lunch line and those sorts of things. And so it's hard even to gauge how many kids you have helped out over your career, Milt, because you have had I can assure you that you've had a very important indirect impact on several kids. So it's, you know, it's important. It's important. It was important to me to be able to talk to you and you know, give you an opportunity to share this, but also just to hear it, because you're an important part of that legacy, clearly. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's pretty neat.
Well, I love it. I love it. Do you have anything else to share, Mr. Henderson, or can I go ahead and hit the stop button?
Yeah, at this time, I would like to include in the interview the coach that I had along the way. They were excellent coaches, assistant coaches, JV coach, and cross-off coach. I hope it's okay to put their name in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are you talking about, Mr. Henderson?
Okay. Yeah, I was speaking about James Dominguez. He was the son of the coach before me, Joe Dominguez. He was assistant varsity and JV coach. I had Robert Mancata, who was assistant. Brian Mindeborough, he was my JV coach. He actually played for me my first year of coaching. That was quite an experience. Brian Carter, I'd like to mention him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my son Darrell coached across for a couple of years. And Henry Wise, still call Henry my brother from another mother. We were real close. He's a good friend.
Yeah, Henry comes up from time to time on these podcasts, actually. You are not the first person to shout out Henry in this. So, yeah. He's been around the Blade family a long time. All the people that you're talking about now are all, you know, great members of the Blade family. So, yeah. Who else?
Then also, too, I like to thank John Gibson for giving me the opportunity to be the community counselor. Also Lee Vasquez for encouraging me to do more as a community counselor. And also our current principal, Mr. Leo Holland, for all his support that he gives me and whatever I do. Appreciate all that.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
And probably one of my best memories also of being here at East High School is being inducted into the EB, East Bakersfield High School Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That was quite an honor. It was quite a night.
It was a good night.
Yeah. I was just kind of overwhelmed by the whole thing. You know, you're sitting there and these are people that make their mark in life and you don't feel like you've done as much as they've done, but you know, you do what you can to help and do whatever you can.
Yeah.
So, and last of all, I like to say something about my family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to say that I love my family, wife and 4 sons. Appreciate all their sacrifice that they've done. You know, sometimes you don't think about all the long hours that you're out trying to do and help other families. That's taking time away from your family.
Right. And
so it's a sacrifice. Sons never complained or whatever. Wife was always there. I think it's because she has such a giving spirit her own self, and she was always supportive in anything that I was doing. She was asked if there's anything I needed, anything she could help with. So I appreciate all that.
That's awesome. So I will tell you, Coach Henderson, I'm I'm glad that you mentioned those coaches and your family. I know how important your family is to you. We've had a couple of conversations in the past about that. Um, is there anything else that you would like to say about your Valley Championship team from was it 2002?
2002.
Yeah. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to mention about those players, the coaches that were along with you on that journey?
Yeah. Um, During that time, we didn't have like the greatest of athletes at that time,
Mm-hmm.
but we had like players that kind of understood their role, done whatever it is we asked of them, and we always went out there on the court with the mindset of we may not be as athletic, but we will play harder than anybody that's on the floor with us,
Mm-hmm.
and that was that team. It was led by Fred Pineda. We called him the little general.
Mm-hmm.
He ran everything. He was the smallest guy on the floor, but he was the most competitive and explosive guy on the floor. Didn't back down from anybody. Had that mindset. Um, Things weren't going right. He would like let guys know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And also on that team, we had a guy, John Calvillo, we call him Johnny Buckets. He could he could put that thing in anywhere. I mean, he would shoot it from 20, 30, 40 foot. I mean, it was like just money. He was like a great shooter, probably one of the best shooters we ever had here.
Uh-huh.
And then we also had a good kid named Nathan Rhodes.
Uh-huh.
He was 6'7", over 300 pounds. He was a parade All-American offensive tackle for the football team.
Wow.
And it was just amazing because we would have football scouts come into our basketball practice to watch him play basketball. They wanted to see how his lateral movement was, jumping ability, his explosiveness off the floor.
Wow.
And yeah, it was quite a team. And then that year, uh, we we weren't like really deep, but we had some players coming off the bench. And I know in that Valley Championship game, two of my players got into foul trouble, and I had to make a decision of. I had brought up a couple of JV guys, and I had a couple of varsity guys that were bench players that were still there.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of went with the gut feeling of going with those two JV kids that I brought up. And when when I put them in the game, we were up 1 or 2 with like 4 or 5 minutes to go in the first half. A real pivotal point of the game. And by the end of that first half, we were up 4 or 5. You know, those kids had held their own. They went at them, but they did hold their own.
That's awesome.
And that kind of like gave us the confidence to finish off that game.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a cool story. I know we in this podcast I talked to Ken Chapman several weeks ago now, early on when I started doing this, and we spent some time talking about that football Valley Championship team. So I wanted to make sure we touched on the basketball Valley Championship team as well.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. You know, it was like 2 in the same year.
Yeah. I turned right around and got a football one right after the basketball, and that's always nice.
Oh yeah,
it does a lot for your school culture when you're winning like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. You got anyone else that is out there that you want to thank, or you got a story about, or anything like that, Coach?
Yeah. I have one more. When I first started as the community counselor, um, there's a young man named Martin Rodriguez. When he was in the 8th grade, I used to help volunteer over at the Boys and Girls Club a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Used to like referee games and stuff like that just to help out. And they had a kid over there named Martin Rodriguez. He was a really good athlete,
I mean, he played football, basketball, baseball. He played everything, and he was good at everything. And I remember, I don't know, I just took a liking to this kid. I love his competitive nature, and and how hard he played. And as I got to know him more, uh, come to know that his older brothers were all in prison. Dad was in life prison. Sister was in prison, and mom's health was not very good. So there's a lot of things he was doing on his own,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of entities, I'll put it, that was like calling him to come follow in that direction of it, that his older brothers stuff that went. And so we actually, my whole staff, we kind of like took a liking to him and kind of like took him under our wings, and we kind of made sure that the family had food during the holidays, and whatever else that we could help supply them with. Um, and I remember I gave him a ride home from practice one time, and when I was dropping him off, his sister had, no, his aunt had called, and she told him, she asked him where was he, and he said that he was getting dropped off at home. They had been uh, evicted from their
Oh,
house,
wow.
and we went there. We ended up having to go to the aunt's on our way to one aunt's house, and then another aunt called and said that the mom was at her house and she was not doing well, and he needed to come like right now. And remember, we were heading back to his aunt's house, and he asked me if I could drop him off with the other aunts, and I said sure, no problem. So we got there, and he asked if I could like wait and come in with him because he wasn't sure what was going on there.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. So the park went in, and it was real somber in there. And they told him to come back in the back. I waited in the living room, and he got there just in time. He held his mom's hand and
Wow.
said his last goodbye to her.
Wow.
And that kid, we kept under our wings. He grew up to be a real good young man. He has two little boys working. He actually, and one of the odd things is he now officiates basketball. And when
Wow.
he played, he was the biggest griper and complainer about the refs' calls and stuff like that. And now he
Well,
decided he'd be one of.
yeah,
And
well,
I
he's
saw a
changing it
couple.
from within, He
Yeah,
decided.
I saw a couple games, yeah, where he was refereeing, and then people in the stands just like getting all on him.
Oh, wow.
Afterwards, I said, do you get to see how the other side lives now? Yeah. But I think that was one of the things that kind of like started driving me to help, kind of like help people. And there's a lot of different situations out there.
Wow.
People need like assistance with different things.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of like driving motivation to do
Wow.
whatever I could.
That's a powerful story, Coach. Thank you for sharing that. that. Do you have anything else for the Blade family out there listening to this podcast?
I would just probably say that like being a Blade is, to me, it's more than just the name of being a Blade.
Uh-huh.
It's something inside that you feel that you're part of a family that cares for each other, that respects each other. And if you're a real Blade, you're linked into the East Side family, like for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Okay, Coach, if you are all set, I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button.
Yeah.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that powerful, powerful interview from Coach Henderson. He's one of those people, again, like all these staff members that were Blades that we're talking to. His impact is just, astoundingly humongous. People, everything from students who he mediated conflicts with that were able to get through high school because he intervened, to kids who were going through those situations like he was just describing, to the kids he coached, to the fans who just watched him coach. The impact he's had on our Blade family has just been tremendous. Hey, listen, the podcast itself is a labor of love for me. I just love talking to my people and getting members of the Blade family and picking their brain about their story is just so much fun for me. But also, I'm trying to make sure we get some money together for scholarships for our students. Hopefully, if you're in a position to give this holiday season, you can reach out to our finance office and give a little bit of money for the principal scholarships for summer programs and also for some students to get some money to go away to college. I love you, Blade family. Take care. Go Blades.